Hello again. This is Tom from Raise Your Garden with my assistant Esther, and we're getting into vermicomposting again. We've talked about our worm tubes in the garden and how important worms are to every garden success. And today we're getting out the Worm Factory 360. We have the base here with the spigot. Once liquid starts coming out, which will be every couple days, you want to just leave it open and have some kind of bucket or cup that collects that liquid, and that is not something you're going to want to put in your garden. Anything that you're eating, you don't want to use that. So we put our base down, we take our first feeding tray, we layered it with newspaper because you can see the grids on the bottom. That allows the worms to go up and down. So we're going to put newspaper so they can't crawl out until they get acclimated to our new system here. So we had some coconut coir that it came with. We took half of it, broke it off, put it with water, and that makes a nice bedding with a half a cup of pumice and our shredded newspaper. So we are quickly throwing that all into a bucket, making it ready for the worms. Now, when you're feeding your worms, you want to use half browns and half greens. We'll get into that in a little bit more details later. And you also need to know the amount of food you should be feeding your worms. We got a pound of African night crawlers, so that means they can eat half of their weight. So a half a pound of food a day they should be getting. So we've mixed our bedding. We're gonna want to dump that in, Esther. You want to keep this in a cool, dry place, whether it's going to be inside or outside. You want to keep this between 40 and 80 degrees. And this is something that you can use year-round. Obviously, we're here in Buffalo, New York, so we're going to have to bring this inside at some point. But Esther is adding our bedding, and I'm going to go get the worms. Okay, we got our worms. And we already gave our first feeding. We're going to work the feeding into one of the corners opposite where we place the worms in. So she's evenly placing that all in. All right, I'm going to start working the food in here. We got our greens and our browns. We're going to put it all in one corner. You can even put more on top.
Hi, Jimmy.
Are you helping? All right, and this is my second assistant, Mr. Timothy. All right, so we have our bedding. We have some food going here in the corner. You know what? And I'm looking at this. They say a half of the core. I'm gonna add more. I feel like it's a little light, so we're gonna add a little bit more. All right, so we're gonna add now the worms in the opposite corner. We're just gonna start dumping, Esther. Let's just get them going. But let's, like I said, let's overall keep them away from the food to begin with.
This one's going to the food.
Until they start figuring it out. Don't wanna...
In there. Worms! Worms!
There they are. Keep them in the corner over here, Esther. And they'll start working their way around. Esther, do you want to get the top?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so here we are on phase 2. So basically, we've been going for about a month. If you can look in here, I don't know if the camera can see. They've been breaking down the food very well. And look at all that dark soil. And a lot of worms are hiding right in the food here. So they've migrated over to the food. They figured that out real quick. So now we're gonna make this the processing tray. And we do that by adding another tray. And normally you do this when you're about an inch from the top. We should have done that a few weeks ago. As you can see, we are pretty full here. So we are no longer gonna add food. Once you add a tray, you no longer add food on the bottom. And you just add it on the top tray. So I'm going to take out that newspaper. I'm going to add Ours came with this worm ladder, so we're going to put that in, I guess, to make it a little easier for them to climb up. And then we're going to add the next tray. So it's a little tight. What that tells me, we need to take a little bit of the dirt and add it to our new tray. Reach in here. A lot of the worms start. And it's okay if I take a few worms with it. We're a little high. Here. You guys will be happy in a minute. And spread out the food down below. Let's again add a little bit more on top. Oh yeah, look at that nice rich soil down there. Very good for the garden. Okay. Even that out. Add back in our worm ladder. See if that can go down a little bit more. So here we have our coconut core, a few leaves, and some pumice. This was just the bedding. So now this is once again our new feeding tray. And the other one simply stays as the processing tray. So this is the one we'll feed, and they will migrate on their own. The ones that are in the bottom. So I'm gonna go add some food and we'll be in business again. All right, so here we are adding some of our dinner scraps in. We had a little bit of corn, sweet potatoes, and a little bit of bread of a hot dog roll that someone didn't want. So this is the only spot now, once again, where we're adding the food. I like to add my top layer of wet newspaper just to keep things nice and cool for them. And then we add our top back on. And after about another month, we'll be ready for another tray. All right, so the worm ladder does fit in there as long as you have enough room. Once again, we waited a little long, and that's why there wasn't room. So fits in there, helps them get to the top tray where you're feeding. And I like to add a layer of, once again, wet newspaper on top. And now once again on top, that's our new food tray. And once that processing tray is 100% out of food, they will all be in the top layer.